the show we're not watching, which is Loki. So this is a Deadline article, okay? And this is from today. And it says Loki first day viewership scores record for Disney Plus / Marvel series. And this is per Samba TV. We have made references to Samba TV in the past. So the article says Samba TV reports that Loki's Wednesday premiere drew 890,000 U.S. households, which the third-party streaming stat.org said is, quote, the largest U.S. premiere day audience for any of the Marvel Disney shows. For comparison, they mentioned that Falcon and the Winter Soldier got 759,000 and WandaVision got 655,000. It says Loki's viewership also bests the 4-day premiere weekend of Cruella on Disney Plus, but that pick was available to subscribers for $29.99, which, by the way, I've mentioned many times. I hate that model. I will never support it. Whatever you think of Cruella, I just wouldn't get it just because you have to pay the extra money, and I hate that Disney's doing that. So the article goes on to say, clearly the growing number of households turning in on day one proves that the Marvel Disney Plus series are growing in momentum, says Samba TV. Now, I mentioned this a little bit to Dave in the pre-show. This was something we discussed. These numbers are basically CW numbers. And I am really shocked to realize what the actual numbers are. And we've been covering streaming wars and ratings and things like that for a while. Now, the Nielsen's, the way they do their ratings for streaming is different because they go by hours, basically. So it's like how long so you could be, if you're watching the same show over and over and over again, they're counting that, okay? And that's the way they look at streaming, with their format. And also Nielsen's are usually like a month behind, basically. The Nielsen's are usually a month behind. We've got to wait. We won't see Loki for at least 3 weeks, 4 weeks maybe. Samba does things differently, and I've just started doing some coverage of their process and getting some of these articles. We see these. I'm really shocked at these numbers, and Dave, I'm really I'm curious what you think, because these really are like CW numbers. CW generally, their best shows are maybe 1 million viewers. Some of their shows are as low as 500,000. I don't even know how you sustain a show. You know what I mean with those kind of numbers? Who wants to put their ads on that? Granted, there has been overall in television streaming, everybody's competing, right? So these are basically smaller pieces of that larger pie. That's one way of looking at it, I think. It's like there's smaller slabs, right? It's not like MASH. You know what I mean? We're not going to have that again. Like when MASH went off the air, where it was this event, and we're never going to have ratings like that ever again, right? So, this is different from, when we had the big three networks. I understand that. But I'm just comparing stuff that's contemporary. And these are like CW numbers. And it's amazing to me because we were talking off the air. Disney has over 100 million subscribers. 100 million. So they're not even getting, 1% of that. It's shocking to me. What do you think, Dave?
Well, as we were talking about kind of backstage before we actually started the show, I'm a little surprised, not too terribly surprised. I was talking to Eric about how, at the end of the day, between Falcon and Winter Soldier and WandaVision, I've pretty much determined I think that I liked WandaVision better than Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I was telling him too, it's like, for example, I have a subscription to Disney Plus, and I haven't watched the new Loki show. I talked about here actually on the Retrogs Live that I wasn't going to watch it. If we get about 3 or 4 episodes in and I hear, that it's worth checking out, I'll check it out. I have the subscription, but it was kind of impressed upon us at the beginning with the Disney Plus shows that they were going to be integral and important, to the Marvel Cinematic Universe moving forward. And I honestly don't feel like, from what I've seen so far, there may be something I'm missing. I don't see where they are integral. And in all honesty, I just, I like Tom Hiddleston's Loki, but I just Loki show doesn't immediately appeal to me. I know that may sound weird, but it just doesn't. Actually, Falcon and Winter Soldier is probably more of my cup of tea. Just I loved Winter Soldier. It's one of my favorites. And I just feel like that with this show, even though they say there's going to be all this interconnectivity to all this stuff, I feel like that with WandaVision and Falcon and Winter Soldier, they've showed us kind of what they're going to do with the Disney Plus shows. And it's just, Falcon and Winter Soldier is a perfect example about how infuriating it was for me, because it's like, you've got these UN high important people that have been kidnapped, and probably several blocks one direction you've got Spider-Man, and several blocks the other direction you've got Doctor Strange, and Falcon has to call someone for help. Who does he call? Basically, and basically someone who's selling artwork on the black market, who may or may not be connected to some kind of weird drug running in Asia, who he thought was dead. That's who you call for help. So I still can't get over that. I can't. And because of that, I'm prepared to sit Loki out. So even though last night I actually was watching something on Disney Plus that was Marvel related, but I was watching Spider-Man Unlimited, the cartoon.
There you go.
So,
yeah, I just think these numbers are really low, and I'll compare it to something that was just a few years ago, Game of Thrones, which was considered a phenomenon, right? They were getting numbers almost like at 20 million. Okay. Now, granted, that's like huge numbers, especially in today's market, right? And streaming really wasn't as much of a thing back then. The streaming wars really hadn't officially started. There was HBO Go, right? I mean, there was streaming. There's no doubt about it. It already had started, but it's not really considered like, the midst of the streaming wars. Disney Plus wasn't out, for instance. But Netflix certainly was. And they were getting numbers like that, And to me, that, of course, is a phenomenon. That is a huge hit show. These numbers are not. And I also want to show something else that I think goes along these lines of what are we really talking about here? And is this really like as great as they're saying that this is the greatest ever? This is a Loki action figure, okay, from the Loki show. And for those of you that are listening to us, it is, I wouldn't even say it's Loki. It's the actor in a suit. How the hell is this Loki? And this is the kind of garbage that they're peddling right now. And people, I guess, are buying it. I don't understand it. This is a collector's corner show. So I did want to address this. I mean, these toys to me are just like pathetic. They'll probably sell, I guess, because it seems like everything in Marvel Legends sells. But I don't know, man. I'm sitting there scratching my head. This is what you want? This is what people want? I don't want this.
Well, I think from a completist standpoint, I could understand wanting to have this if you have a version of Loki in his, Asgardian outfit, and then you might want to have this because it's, relates to the show. But it is kind of, I do find it a little odd, but that's, I don't know. I mean, when I was a kid, the Superpowers line, they had the Clark Kent action figure, and I wanted the Clark Kent
different.
Action figure.
That's totally different. That's totally different, Dave. I'm sorry, but that's completely different. That's completely different than what this is. This is not Loki. This is just the actor in a suit. I'm sorry, but I'm not going to change my position there. I just don't understand it. I do understand that Marvel Legends is super popular, and I do understand the completionist argument because I get that. I totally get that. I know there are collectors like that. I'm not like that. I've never been like that, but I know people who are, that they're obsessed with this stuff and they have to have every figure, and that's why they sell, right? But at some point, you got to ask yourself as a collector, I mean, this is what you want? Really? I mean, I feel like they're really taking their fans and their audience for granted with crap like this. I really do, because I feel like who the hell wants this except that completionist guy who doesn't care how terrible the figures are. He just has to have every single one. It's like that fan that the second you put Star Wars on it, the second you put Marvel on it, they got to have it, no matter how stupid it is, no matter how bad it is, just because the logo's on it, they got to have it. And I'm telling you, if you're that kind of fan, it's very easy for the studios not to appreciate you, and they give you stuff like this. That's what happens. I think that's what happens to your collecting, is because you're willing to take anything they slap that label on, they're going to give you crap like this.
Well, yeah, it is kind of weird. It makes me feel not as bad about myself because Funko Pops had released some Fantastic Four Funko Pops, and I've been debating on getting Herbie the Robot. Now I don't feel so bad about that after seeing this. I thought that was kind of bad. This is definitely questionable. So
This is definitely questionable. Hollywood Jackson says it looks like Inspector Gadget, and he says, "Go Gadget Copter." I agree with you, Hollywood. To me, this isn't Loki. I mean, obviously, he's going to look like this, I guess, in the show. He wears a suit or something. Who cares? I mean, who cares? It's like, do I want a Tony Stark? Basically, do I want a Rodney Downey Jr. action figure? Do I want Tony Stark in a suit? No. In fact, I'm one of those guys that says, keep the damn helmet on because I want to see Iron Man. And why can't you act with a mask on? I say this all the time because I'm that classic Star Wars guy who knows about David Prowse, who thinks he's awesome, who knows about, Peter, who played Chewbacca. You know what I mean? I know about these people, and I appreciate them. And I think that there's a talent to that when you have to perform completely covered. If you know anything about theater, that's how it started. The Greeks all wore masks. And now every single actors, they've got to show their face. And even if they're playing a character that's supposed to be masked, it gets ridiculous. It really does. And again, I feel like these studios, and in this case, like the toy companies, they don't appreciate their fans. They're just going to give you this kind of garbage, and people are still going to get it because they have to have them all,
Well, and yeah,